Hey there, this is Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. It's a bit of a special episode this week on the Ear Coffee Podcast as Allie and I talk to Connor, Trey, Matt, and Chance, organizers of the famous Fauxchella Festival in Ohio. If you're a fan of DIY music, which why wouldn't you be if you listen to this podcast, this is kind of one of the big events for our nationwide scene every year. It's one that everybody is fighting to get to, and as tickets sell out faster and faster every year, you know, it's one of those things that if you're not there, you're missing out on one of the events of the season. And it was really exciting to talk about kind of the festival's beginnings, how it's been growing. What do you do next when you become one of the largest DIY events in the scene? What's happening next? And so we get into that a little bit here when I talk to Connor, Chance, Matt, and Trey with Allie here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How's it going?
Hello. Hello.
We're excited to have y'all here, especially since you're our first podcast recording of the year. And it's going to be a cool one. First, let's have you guys introduce yourselves and kind of put some names to voices.
Oh, I can go first, I guess. Yeah. Why not? I'm Matt. I mostly just run the cameras and do all the editing and stuff for the Summit Shack. Mostly just kind of behind the camera all the time.
I'm Chance. I'm also behind a camera all the time.
I'm Trey. I do that and I don't know, a lot of other stuff. I was around since the Summit Shack was in the garage.
Hell yeah.
And then I'm Connor. I do the booking for Fauxchella and just like general promotion and stuff like that.
Well, sick. Well, I appreciate y'all taking some time to chat with us here on this Wednesday. First off, I always want to ask, and usually when we talk to bands, kind of have you kind of how you describe your music, since it's a little different, a different side of DIY, which you guys do, at least what we're talking about today. Do you want to just describe what the Shack is for like people who maybe aren't in the know? If that you have like that one sentence, you know, if it's a coworker or something, being like, "Oh, cool, you do stuff in local music." So, what is your kind of your line to describe it?
What I changed the Twitter bio, I think, a few months ago, but it's like multimedia entertainment conglomerate. It's like our joke description of it. It's the Entertainment 720 from Parks and Recreation, like descriptor. But essentially, we're like a festival crew, a video crew, and previously we're like local promoters.
Yeah, we kind of, we've been able to kind of fill a lot of gaps and stuff like that, and kind of be very malleable in what we're able to accomplish and kind of whoever we're working with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's an organization that stems from just being a DIY venue in Bowling Green, Ohio. Yeah,
and over the last 7 years, it's just kind of evolved through a ton of different versions of itself. I'd say we're on like Shack V4 right now.
Yeah,
Is accurate?
If I had to guess.
working on the patch for 2025.
Yeah, for real.
I feel like Ear Coffee has done kind of the same thing where we run into like, I don't really know what we are because we kind of dabble, and calling ourselves a multimedia conglomerate or something along those lines is in a semi-unironic bit, at least I've been doing for a couple years. To give a coworker pitch. It's like, yeah, it's a multimedia. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to say more, actually. Just look it up.
It's better than you're a podcast. Do you listen to Joe Rogan?
Oh God!
Like This American Life.
Yeah. And so, talk to me about. You said you've kind of had these multiple iterations of what y'all did. So, talk to me kind of how it started. We don't have to fully get into it. I know other people. You've talked to other people. Just kind of gone through the full nitty gritty of the Shack coming up. But kind of how did it form? What were you kind of looking to do, especially for the local scene in Bowling Green?
I feel like Trey, this would be a good one for you to kind of
Sure.
into.
It It started out, I think, at the time when Connor and I were graduating from BG and kind of didn't know what to do. He was going to go to the Peace Corps, right? Pretty close to it, at least. And I had no. Am I allowed to curse? Or is this
absolutely.
Like PG? I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I still don't have no fucking clue what I'm doing. But and we knew we liked art. We knew that in Bowling Green there was a lot of people that like different mediums of art, but there wasn't really any off-campus organizations for it. There's a couple of houses that would have, different types of music there, depending on who lived there at the time that I went to school, but nothing that was kind of like set in stone. So I don't know. Connor got a hold of a bunch of people in like the next 48 hours and pretty much formed the collective out of all of these artists that we knew. So it was like, I don't know, 60 people almost, something like that in a group chat.
Yeah,
Which is
an insane amount of people, just like basically all my art friends in BG. I was just like, hey, we have no clue what we're doing, but we're trying to organize. Do you want to come, be a part of this art collective, essentially?
So Connor had a garage that wasn't in use for a garage. So the first kind of like community event, you could say, was pretty much just inviting people over to meet each other and clean out a space together to use as a collective space for whenever people wanted to come in and out. Too many cooks in the kitchen at the beginning is what we learned, but we did kind of whittle down to basically, being more so a place to have shows and comedians, stuff like that, which we still have, which is cool.
Yeah, I'd say that it started as a practice space, turned into like an organized kind of space, which then turned into hosting shows for local bands and like throwing the first iteration of Fauxchella, which was just literally all of our friends. It was like 2 months after, the Shack had started, quote unquote. Yeah, we just had all of our friends over for an all day. Like we just grilled out and, played
glorified big house show,
Yeah. Very, very, very just friends hanging out kind of vibe. And over the next few years that kind of evolved into doing like more regular shows. I would say at our peak, we were doing probably 8 shows a month. I think 9 was the most that we ever did in 1 month. And we, started local, started regional. And then, by 2019, 2020, pre-COVID, we had like touring acts coming through and kind of learned DIY ethics, taking donations at the door, making sure that people go inside to watch the bands. And it was kind of cool to see the evolutions go, from house parties to like house shows, you know what I mean? Because they were, we're all college kids, they were house parties, you know what I mean? But we also played music. And I think it definitely,
there was a
over
change
the first few years, there was definitely a shift of okay, this is a show house, you know what I mean?
And people actually coming to take it in because they wanted to be in that environment and not just coming to, drink and get high and do nothing. That wasn't related to that, I guess. And then I'm trying to think. Fauxchella 3, I think, was the first Fauxchella that we didn't have at the house. We were like, this space is too small, and we needed a larger venue. We'd move to Howard's, and that's like the local dive bar, pretty much in town. The only place that has like live shows or live music, I guess. I think, I don't know. I mean, there's acoustic venues, I suppose, but yeah.
And was the goal, or I should actually ask one more, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For Bowling Green, what was the DIY scene like when you guys were kind of coming up in it? Was it a lot of house venues, or was it just kind of more like there's a lot of little spaces that you knew people did stuff and you're just kind of looking to create that central location?
They'd kind of overlapping with the party scene, kind of like you were saying. It's a blurry line, but is still one that merits distinction.
Yeah, I would say little places scattered. BG is a really cool spot. There's a lot of different types of people, even internationally, that come here. But yeah, I would say that it's got so much of like a party, like it's a party school. Like, so it's, there's more people in like Greek organizations and stuff that are just trying to get the rocks off, shit like that. So when you find like an art house, it's definitely a little bit of a smaller type scene. But yeah, there was a lot of different pockets like that. There still are.
I remember going with you, Trey, to the BLV house.
Yeah, that house was crazy.
It just had like like a little windmill outside of it. It was still like you could still walk to it. It was on the outside of town.
Yeah, yeah. There, I think there was music then, but that house was crazy. It was Halloween, and it was weird because almost every room we went into felt like a different environment. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it was pretty cool. But yeah, there's I don't know. I would say small pockets. So yeah, I don't know. I think we were trying to initially and even still facilitate more of a central place where like anyone and everyone could come to and feel safe and come to watch music, have a good time. That was pretty much always the goal, and still I think in a lot of ways is in line with what we're trying to accomplish.
And over the course of doing those shows up until pre-COVID, we had linked up. Trey was very good friends with Chance and Matt and Taylor, and we had linked up with them and started. We had like an interview show called Cliff Notes that our friend Adashina hosted, where we would, bands that would come and play the Shack would show up a few hours early, and we would film like an interview show kind of vibe, and we would throw those videos up on YouTube. And those were like 2018, 2019. We started, Matt, Chance, and Trey had been doing music videos for a really long time, and we started doing music videos for bands in the DIY scene. And we started filming the festivals and having a dedicated crew dedicated to, to documenting, bands on the side stage, bands on the main stage, and just like the overall vibe of Fauxchella, just because, I don't know, it felt like there was something cool happening in the scene, and I felt like it needed to kind of be documented, and I think everybody agreed in that sense. And once COVID hit, we originally transitioned from Fauxchella 4 into doing Mindchella, which was a Minecraft festival, which was a whole debacle in and of itself. That I think we all have very fond memories of. It was like a very beautiful shit show, you know what I mean? Because it's an interesting medium to do music through. And I think Matt and Chance can shed some light on like the Mindchella era, as well as
It was just
transition into to Shack TV, because I feel like that's a pretty solid 2 to 3 year arc of Shack stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't doing much, so it was like taking. It was honestly kind of Chance and Trey's kind of thought baby to use OBS to kind of like multicam cut a festival in Minecraft. I think with our friend Sergey, I think was on board with some of the original ideas with that.
Yeah, Sergey did the Sergey was the Minecraft like god.
He was the moderator.
And then we had multiple people streaming on Twitch to like private channels. I grabbed their private channels into OBS, like I screen captured each of those, and that was the different cameras I could switch to. And then I think the music was coming out of Matt's computer.
Oh, who knows? The setup was so ridiculous, man.
Computer, and Connor was taking my video feed and Matt's audio feed and streaming that to Twitch.
Yeah, it was like a three-way inception to get the camera and the audio all synced up a very specific way, because we honestly were all doing it.
Were you
with that all that way? I feel like is what led us to Shack TV Live.
Yes.
All of this experimenting and stuff like that with the Mindchella shit and having to problem solve all that bullshit. We were like, oh, like if we can just plug all our cameras in, we could still use our cameras and just do a live show, and that's kind of what led us to do Shack TV Live like later during COVID.
Also the dark period of doing the Shack TV Twitch channel where we did the 24/7 thing.
Oh god, the brief arc into trying to be MTV and have like a channel dedicated to just
a goofy misstep for 2 months
content streaming. Chance got his internet throttled and got his internet shut down, and we just like couldn't find a way to do it, so we started trying to do episodes, but it was just like hard to parse through all the content and get it uploaded instead of just like streaming it. So it was a I wouldn't say it was
all like still trying to get people to participate. And I think again, like even doing that, it was literally just like submit your videos and like we'll organize and do a block of this stuff and do a block of that stuff. And Chance was curating like specific like themes for each hour. It was very much about highlighting other people's artwork too. Even then,
yeah. Because we were early contributors to when you put out the calls for some of our like locally recorded stuff. But that's wild, just the ingenuity and this like nature of, well, we have to do something. Because I wouldn't have thought to be like, all right, we're going to open a bunch of private streams on people's computers that I can route into OBS to then do like a live show switching.
It's unbelievable that it worked. Like, I can't believe that the audio and everything was like synced up correctly and the video was synced up correctly. Like,
until Donnie ruined everything.
I want to say, Matt, you were in Kalamazoo, right, during that?
No, during mine show, no,
that was still in Chicago.
Okay, so yeah, the three of them were in Chicago. I think, right? Connor, do you win?
They're all in different rooms in the same apartment.
Yeah. Do you guys should try to dig up a picture and send it to them just off.
There's going to have one.
Because
I don't know if we documented that at all.
Yeah, then I'm in BG with like 3 screens, one with the live feed, one with my camera. Because I was a camera, they switched to it. The whole thing was crazy, but it was a lot of fun for sure.
I feel like COVID kind of generated so much of that kind of forced ingenuity.
Yep.
A small sparkle on a giant blot, but just this kind of community coming together and just like, how the hell can we do something?
Mm-hmm.
We have people, we have this kind of gear. Let's all synthesize it into Fauxchella and ends up with getting vinyl pressed for Gandhi.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah,
right. Yeah, what a great release, too.
I always forget that got immortalized with a record pressing.
It is neat.
Yeah, the whole event was crazy. And then, yeah, after that, Matt talked about it a little bit, but we wanted to still kind of do that. And we still wanted to have shows, but obviously we couldn't because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we started to have, we made Shack TV, which was basically just
our foray into Audio Tree.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
From an MTV ripoff to an Audio Tree ripoff.
And I don't know that looking back on some of those, I'm still pretty proud of a lot of it, even though it's not the best audio quality per se. Which was
it was just in the circumstance, especially with doing summer brews for the first time. I think there was a snowstorm, 2 feet of snow outside, and I don't know if y'all have ever been to the actual garage, but you have Mike Seymour outside with headphones in the shivering cold to be able to hear anything because he's trying to mix it. And it was a mess, dude.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, all things considered, the fact that the whole thing was going live to Twitch, I'm proud of that, and I think it's still a really cool production. But yeah, I don't know. We tried to do that. It was fun.
And in that kind of ingenuity, it feels like the Shack was always meant to be kind of all encompassing then for the DIY bands that you worked with, whether it was the visual or like the booking or just being a spot for people to come to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really like what was it? The OG descriptor for the Summit Shack was a platform of exposure for artists of any medium, and I feel like throughout every era of the Summit Shack, I feel like we've stayed pretty true to that mantra. And I feel like the some bands have stayed throughout the entirety of the Shack's existence, and some bands have come, some bands have go. There's new bands starting all the time. You know what I mean? Like with Fauxchella 8 this year, I think there's like 23 bands that have never played a Shack Fest or something like that. It's like over 50% of the bands. So as much as it is like, oh, Summer Brews is playing again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's also just like every year there's 20 plus new bands that you can be exposed to, which I think is cool and kind of keeps the spirit of the fest alive, because I feel like a lot of festivals do devolve into becoming just like, oh, it's the same bands as last year, you know what I mean? So I try to have some of the same bands, you know what I mean, to keep it thematic to a point, but I really do try to get a lot of new blood out there.
I mean, Connor usually puts 1 or 2 bands on every year. They call them Connor bands, and I learned about Cheem because Cheem was a Connor band, and Cheem rules.
Yeah, dude. Connor picks are just like bands that like
Anita Velveeta rule. Didn't know about it. You know what I mean? Like things like that last year. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Bands that I'm picking purely selfishly because I want them there, which is in a sense all of the bands. But I feel like there was a band called Elders, which is just like purely instrumental.
Dude,
like
they were awesome.
Math rock.
Blew my mind.
Just like not a huge band by any means. Do well in Florida, but they're in Florida, so they don't get out a ton. And I was just like, dude, please come play Fauxchella. Like this would be so sick. Like I love your band so much. Like Callous Cowboys, I feel like in hindsight wasn't necessarily a Connor pick, but I was just like, dude, I really want this band to come play so fucking bad. Like, where it's just like kind of like the curveball band that maybe not a lot of people will be super into, but I feel like the people who will like that band will like love that band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like in that regard, there's always a couple of things that feel off, like from the genre, I guess. So it doesn't feel like everything's very samey all day long. I guess for us shooting it too, I think Chance and I are like
for noodly guitars. You know, I love twinkly emo. I love just like a freaky little guy on stage with 2 fingers on the fretboard. You know what I mean? If you do that, you know, I'm into it. You know, I've got a type. You know, but you know, for every noodly emo band, I feel like I need to have, you know, some bands. Not to say noodly emo bands don't have substance, but some bands with substance. You know,
just like for anyone listening out there that wants to get on a future Fauxchella, that's what you have to do.
Find some substance.
Put a freaky little guy on stage and put both hands on the guitar. Like,
record one song with Twinkles and mail and send it to y'all and act like this is our only song, even though it sounds nothing like everything else.
In the booking email, freaky little guy with 2 hands.
Band name. That's the band name.
That's the band name.
love it.
And you know, how far in advance are you starting to think of lineups when putting together this show? You know, I doubt, or I shouldn't say I doubt, but is it like, all right, we're done with the, you know, Fauxchella 8 ends on January, or not January, excuse me, June 15th, on the June 16th, are you already like putting together a lineup in your head, or is it kind of, you're already on that next one?
I always say I'm going to take a break. I'm just like, I'm going to take a break for a while after Fauxchella. And then like a week goes by and I'm just like, yeah, I got half the lineup for next year. Like, we're good. Like, it's very much of, but I mean, I guess from 7 to 8, I did take like 3 months before booking any of the bands. But usually once I start booking it, whenever I get that like burst of inspiration, you know, my schedule lines up and I can pick the dates, and the dates work for everybody on the Shack team, and the dates work for everybody, you know, from my work schedule and everything like that. I usually do end up booking most of the lineup within like a few days. Like, I think this Fauxchella 8, I had the bulk of the booking done in like less than 48 hours.
Yeah, it was like 48-hour period.
That's insane.
So I catch the wave of inspiration, and I'm just like, I love this band. I want this band. I want this band. I just honestly shoot out a few emails, because some bands are only email, but like, you know, I interact with a lot of bands on Twitter and sometimes on Instagram, and I just shoot them a DM and just be like, hey, are you trying to play Fauxchella? Here's the dates. And it usually fills itself up pretty quickly.
You got a few homies too for consultation in that way, though, that you're kind of back and forth with. Like,
I love that people.
One of those people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ellie couldn't be here for the call because they are currently on tour with Equipment. I think they just left for the Matt Carrick's tour a few days ago. But Ellie, whereas Chance, Matt, and Trey are definitely like the artistic and video driven side
on
of
the
Shack.
pulse like that.
Ellie and I handle a lot of the like dealing with the bands. You know what I mean? The spreadsheets, the emails, the just like being the point of contact in general. I feel like if I didn't have Ellie to bounce everything off of, and we didn't have kind of a very similar brain in that regard, I feel like I would kind of get overwhelmed. But I feel like Ellie has a good sense of knowing when I am getting overwhelmed, and just like takes a few things off my plate, which is always good.
I think also bands is Ellie's middle name.
Yeah, right. Yeah, plus both of you though, like I mean, especially Ellie and you more recently, Connor, like you both like travel a lot, like you get to go to a lot more of these little pockets, like in ways, so you're seeing a lot of like smaller acts too, and kind of getting that exposure, which is great too, because
I mean, one of the bands that's on Fauxchella, Nicotines, was a band that opened up for Summer Brews, Sydney Sprague, and Super American in Boston. And their manager is the person who did the Fauxchella poster art for last year and this year. Yeah. And their band was fucking awesome. Like Mike Summerbrews and I both had a moment when their set started. I think they started the second song, and we both had, over the course of the first song, just kind of like looked at each other, looked at the stage, and been like, oh, that's a fucking good ass band. You know what I mean? Like one of those sets where it's like, oh fuck this, you know. You're on tour, local opener. Sometimes you know them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you dig them, sometimes you don't. You know, it's a coin flip in a lot of cases, and it was very cool for both of us to be like, "There's a good ass band." And I was in the throes of booking Fauxchella at that point, and I was like, "Hey, do you guys want to play?" And like they, ended that show, opening up a pretty cool show in Boston with like getting booked on Fauxchella after ripping what I thought was an amazing set. So like moments like that are always really cool when it's just like right place, right time, good ass band. Like, hey, do you guys want to play?
Yeah.
And I do feel bad because there are a lot of times where people are like, oh, did I miss submissions? Did I forget to submit on time? And I just like I take submissions sometimes, but I really do just like I finger pick them. You know what I mean? Like I'm very uh, greedy when it comes to the booking process because it's just like I'm gonna book the bands that I want to fucking book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it feels bad sometimes because there are people who like miss out because they couldn't submit, and it could have been a band I really fucked with. But at the same point, I do kind of like watch bands from the ether. You know what I mean? And see what they're up to, see what they do, how they carry themselves, and if I've got trusted friends who play shows with them. What's the vibe? How was their set? Were they good or were they capital G good? Like what was the what was the vibe?
Mhm.
And there's definitely a lot of touring friends that every few months will be like, hey, I've got like an official Fauxchella recommendation because I don't want to do a ton of them, but like you should fuck with this band kind of vibe. And I've definitely booked a lot of the cool bands that I've come to know and love through like recommendations of like close friends as well.
Yeah, it feels like I've never like as someone who has booked things. There's not in your shoes into the level that you work at. There's a certain weight that you kind of have to put on some of those cosigns, especially given just how important Fauxchella has grown within like the national DIY scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was even just kind of not really adding to the question, but just echoing as a victim of the Summit Shack. I heard about y'all like early 2019 or some point, and still pretty late to a lot of it, but it's just felt like there was just this institution that materialized, and I feel like that has been consistent. So even as an outsider who just likes dope ass bands or whatever your term was, Connor, whatever, just loves finding out about new music. The Shack and Coachella has always felt like such a pinnacle of that for bands that are probably going to go underappreciated by a lot of people across the country, a lot of like the big time, which is not the goal necessarily, but it's cool to just find dope new bands and dope new artists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always cool when I see someone who like is very ride or die for a band, and they're like, oh yeah, I learned about this band because they played Fauxchella 3 or Fauxchella 5 or something like that, and it's just like, dude, that's sick. Like I can tell like you really like the band means a lot to the individual, and it's just like a cool feeling to be able to create a space where people can like legitimately like find their new favorite band. I know that's like a cliche thing to say, but like fucking come out and find your new favorite band. You know what I mean? Like it happens. Like
Yeah.
And that is the environment too, that it's always kind of been there. And the vibes even just that kind of have stayed throughout each iteration of it, which is solid.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we've been very lucky enough to the people that help us like cultivate the space, because like as much as the Shack is the people who help put the events on, the Shack is also the people who come to those events, and we've been very lucky with the types of people that come through. We've got a lot of very like supportive, very like judgment free people that come, and it allows there's even last year there was a few people who were just like, I'm coming to my first show ever, my first music show ever is Fauxchella, but it looks really cool, and they kind of got like adopted by like the regulars, you know what I mean, like come on, come see this band, and it was just cool to see people like in real time find a sense of community amongst like-minded people who enjoy this similar art that you do.
No, exactly. Experiencing it in is such a different spot compared to other large musical events because of that sense of community that you talk about.
And I think next year will definitely be a test, because we're not 100% sure on where we're having it. But we're likely going to be moving the festival away from Howard's and moving it to either Michigan or Detroit to look for like a 500 to 600 cap venue with 2 stages that we could use, just because I was very hesitant about doing something like that before, but then Fauxchella sold out in like less than 2 days this year. So I feel like we're definitely at a point where we could sell more tickets, which will inadvertently let me lower the price of tickets. Because if I'm selling double the amount of tickets, I can cut the price in half and do the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to not have to charge, you know, $60 next year, which will be very exciting because, you know, the first ones 1, 2, and 3 were all free.
Yeah.
Fauxchella was, I guess, free. 5 was, I think, $30. You know, 6 was $40. Like, it's inflation, and bandflation is real. You know what I mean?
Bidenomics.
But it did also go from, you know, 10 bands, 12 bands, 15 bands, 20 bands to being at one point 60 bands, and then you know, at another point, the average point about 40 to 45 bands now, which I feel like is a healthy 2 12-hour days in a row, you know.
Oh, totally. And with the 2-day sellout, was that the fastest Fauxchella sold out?
Oh, by far. The last year was like 2 months, 2-3 months or something like that. Like, and I had to do multiple, like, hey, we got X amount of tickets left. Buy your tickets now. Like, God, I hope it sells out kind of vibe, even though it's sold out every year since 5, which has been good. But, you know, even last year I was just like, fuck, dude, I hope it sells out. And then this year I was just like, fuck, I hope people slow down. Like,
right.
It was a very, very different vibe to, you know, post the ticket link, post the poster, go to work, come back home, take a nap, wake up 6 hours later and see almost 200 tickets sold.
It felt good and bad.
Yeah, good
in a lot of ways. It felt really good because I was like, well, this is fucking awesome. But then I started going to like DIY emo, Twitter, everywhere, and people were just like, I didn't sold out. I can't get tickets and stuff. And they're just like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh no, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like,
so you know, rest assured, people who missed out this year, we're intending to move to a bigger cap venue. It will unfortunately probably not be in Bowling Green. If I had to guess, it'll probably be at the Roxy May Halls in Cleveland, or Lakewood, excuse me. That seems to be I think the healthiest spot for it, mainly just because it's got 2 good-sized rooms and they have like food on site that's really good. They have like a solid green room, which we've never had for a Fauxchella before. So I think it'll be, I don't know. That seems to be the space best equipped to handle the kind of event that we're trying to throw. And if they let us use the downstairs, we can set up all the merch downstairs and have like a merch dungeon. It seems on paper, it seems like it seems like it'll be a good place for it. And I think they'll, you know, let us sell, I think like 800 tickets or something like that. So, do I think we can sell 800? Probably not. But I mean, if we can sell 500-600 tickets, it'll be very solid. And like, I think a good event for everybody who wants to come.
Yeah. Do you fear that, like, with like leaving a place, probably similar qualms to maybe when you left the garage, moving Fauxchella to another spot will kind of take away from it for you guys? Or is it just like, because so many people love it, we are happy to make it happen where we can?
I mean, I think it's definitely going to be sad because like we are leaving Bowling Green, you know, and moving from the Shack to Howard's, we at least stayed in the same town. It's, you know, all of our college town.
Yeah, and Howard's been really great for us, and a lot of our friends have worked there. But I'm excited to expand to something bigger. I feel like we've outgrown it by Fauxchella 5, I think, to be honest. And I'm excited to get to something bigger.
To be able to film the side stage and
actually get board audio and have like a rail. I will say
the side stage is hard as hell.
I will miss the rowdiness and general craziness of the side stage because I feel like a lot of bands will see like, oh, we're playing the side stage, and it's like, okay, hear me out. It sounds like shit. It's really small, but you're on the floor and people are going to get hurt in a good way.
Yeah,
like you're going to have your set is going to be way crazier on the side stage than it would have been on the main stage. And I feel like after people play their set, they're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah,
the side stage might actually be, even though it is on paper the worst stage, it might be the better one. You know what I mean?
It's the side stage is like a graduation, and in a weird way. And like, I don't know, some of my favorite sets are from the side stage for sure.
Dude, like Carpool side stage, Arcadia Gray side stage, Riley side stage.
Yeah,
Red Sun side stage last year. Like, there's been some fucking.
anyone that had a good side stage experience popped off a year or two after. Let's just talk about that.
The combat side. Yeah, combat has to be main stage now after their fucking side stage set last year. It was too crazy.
I think Joe has a photo of our friend Lil B photo getting knocked in the face watching the side stage Father Melissa set from 6.
I believe
and like that just kind of captures a lot of that energy in one moment. It's like you're having a blast, it's sweaty and overwhelming, and you probably will get hit with something, but it's intense and euphoric in the best way.
Exactly. I mean, you're helping create memories for those band members that hopefully they don't ever forget. You know what I mean? Like there's some of the videos that we've gotten from the side stage have just been like otherworldly. And the main stage is cool. It's bigger, a lot more room to move around, but might be a detriment. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that in a lot of ways that Howard's was kind of an extension of the Shack, and it kind of still felt like a house show place. So
yeah, side stage is the house stage.
For me, it will be a little sad moving away. But spoiler alert, maybe we've even considered probably just maybe even naming it something different, potentially still under the Summit Shack. So who knows what'll happen with evolution? Maybe it'll still be Fauxchella, maybe not, but it'll still have the same, hopefully, general vibe in terms of what type of people will come to the event, what type of bands will play it.
Yeah, because like that's another thing with booking too. I feel like Swordfest, I feel like ends up being like an amazing festival every time, and a lot of times I feel like that gets booked because it's like here's a tour that conveniently all congealed here. You know what I mean?
The Swordfest bit is if three cool touring packages hit me up for the same day, I just book a fest, and it becomes Swordfest. And it's happened twice now.
And Swordfest has ruled both times.
Yeah, I feel like those are like I feel like Swordfest is like sleepers because like if you look at the Swordfest 2 lineup, it was in the middle of winter. There was like a kind of a snowstorm that day. Like turnout wasn't like by Shackfest
so
standards.
Good bands
turnout was
so amazing,
pretty just okay. But like looking back at that lineup, like even now or a year from now, you know what I mean? Like people are gonna see that and be like, oh fuck, all those bands played together on like a winter Saturday in this small ass town. I don't know. I feel like that's half the fun is like even when you book a show that might not be attended super well, if you fuck with the bands and the bands are all like that fucking good, it's just like it's only a matter of time before people are like, oh fuck, I missed that, like that happened kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Allie and I, while we were just kind of looking through old lineups for both, like all of the fests that the Summit Shack had put on, looking at those bills, it's just the crazy, just connections and bands that are huge now. That's obviously it's not lost on y'all, but do you ever just kind of look back and go, I mean, you started talking about that with the Swordfest, but like we had X, Y, and Z all here on a Saturday in Howard's.
Yeah, I mean, the gimme answer to that question is Origami Angel, because like the first time they played the Shack, it was to 15 people in the living room because it was too cold to play in the garage. And then they played Fauxchella 3 after that, and DIY Prom, and had the battle set with Commander Salamander at DIY Prom, and then after that, 3 years later, their festival guarantees in the 5 figures, and they're able to sell out multiple 1,000 cap rooms on their own. Whereas just a few years prior, they played to 15 people who had never heard of them before. So it's always just like, even just recently, Origami Angel had broken down in Indiana and needed a way to get to the Knuckle Puck Copacetic anniversary show. So I ended up driving the next morning to pick them up, pick up all their stuff out of their van that they had crashed the night before, and load up everything into the new trailer, load them up into my car, and then drove them to the gig. And they played in front of like 3,300 people or some absurd number like that. And it was just very surreal in that moment to be like, like these are just, like these are the homies. These are just like, old DIY friends, you know what I mean? And that
need to pick up
that are just obliterating huge rooms, and the sheer volume of people that, sing along with like 24-hour drive through, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's crazy to see the evolution that some of these bands go through.
Or even the evolution of equipment, like Quippy's a band that
they're in the throes of it right now.
Yeah.
Because they were that much like Summer Brews were just like, there's a cool show coming through, I'm gonna put equipment on it. You know what I mean? Like they're 20 minutes away and Jake and Nick are gonna be there anyway. Like,
yeah.
Who was on Swordfest too? Was it Charmer? Was Pool Kids on that? Am I crazy?
Pool Kids was on Swordfest 1, yeah.
Yeah, the original one. Yeah, all that's just insane to think about. It is kind of, but I don't know.
Do you think with the documentation aspect and like how you can watch back a lot of the previous Fauxchellas, that you have this access to Gami when they were just, they weren't playing to 3,300 cap rooms or early equipment sets or all that stuff? Do you think that kind of provides that point of access, or do you ever look back at those sets just to see where your friends had come from?
I like to think that as much as they exist to platform the bands in the moment, I almost feel like we're leaving something for, because I don't know, I have a ton of friends who are just like watching VHS clip tapes on YouTube compilations of bands from the 90s and like the early 2000s, you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, I get big rabbit holes of that shit.
And I feel like a lot of what we've been doing for these bands and like the early documentation of their early shows, I feel like as much as it is a platform for them now, I feel like it's almost going to be a hole for fans to dig later, where they get to. I think a lot of people are going to discover these videos in hindsight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
I'm really proud of having how much of it is well documented.
I mean, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different videos on
so much that's not even out.
YouTube and the Summit Check YouTube, and there's so much unreleased stuff like acoustic sessions and all that. I think that as much as it is cool for us to look back, I feel like I'm excited for other people to look back, like even more and more years down the line.
It's a positive digital footprint.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. We'd already talked about how Fauxchella 8 has already completely sold out, so we don't really need to. I don't know if we need to really get into it too much. But is there anything specifically from this coming fest that you're just really excited about to see, or really happy to have like a band on?
So from my perspective, I'm like excited for a lot of stuff, but I'm also very much of the belief that I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
So this fest where we've got JJ from the Basement Collective, JJ's Barn Grill, X-Ray Arcade, coming in, and we hired JJ last year to help us out with the fest, and ended up not needing as much of his help as we thought, and essentially just paid JJ to hang out, which was what a dream, to get paid to go to Fauxchella. But this year, my girlfriend is pregnant. Her due date is actually Fauxchella. So I'm very much assuming that I'm not going to be there, and that Ellie and JJ will kind of have to take over the point of contact role of just like doing laps around the fest all day and making sure everybody is good. That's 90% of what I do at the fest, is going, you good? You need anything? You good? You need anything? You good? You need anything? And just like checking with like every group all around the campus, the Howards and outside, and Jacob Fowler's, and wherever else we've got set up for it. But
you know what? Anyone that wants access to Connor though on Data Fauxchella, I'm serious about this. I said it to Connor, but I'm going to do it. I'm setting up a camera in his house with a live feed to Howard's, so people will be able to watch him from one specific room. No,
well, I'm going to be. The thing is, I might not be home though. I might just be at the hospital.
Damn it.
Okay, we'll set it up there.
We're just gonna follow you.
Lisa will have words with you about that.
Then we're gonna have a cat cam.
We're not gonna tell about it.
Cat cam would be good. A Blakely cam would go hard.
Yeah,
I love
that. That's what it's gonna turn into.
But for this year, I guess for bands, there were two bands that played last year that had such good sets, in my opinion. I guess three if you count Combat. But there were two bands that just blew me away, and I felt like needed not necessarily like a better slot, but like needed another chance to win people over because their set was that fucking good. So I want to shout out Fend. That's one of the best live bands I think I've ever seen. And I also want to shout out Mud Whale.
Mud Whale's great.
Yeah. They were the two Fauxchella 7 sets that just absolutely blew me away. and I was like, I think I told them at Fauxchella, I was like, hey, you're on the next one, like just so you know, like if you want to come back, I would really love to have you back again. That was amazing. And then Combat as well, just because I was at the right place, right time, caught a good chunk of their set, and just was like, wow, like that's a good ass fucking band. I'm very excited for Strelitzia. They're from Phoenix, Arizona, and the record that they dropped this year, specifically the song "Spen," is just like some of the craziest, like, I don't know how to describe it, emo, for lack of a better word. Just like very, very good. I'm also excited for Rookie Park. Shout out Rookie Park. And I'm also excited for 32-bit Operator. That's Trey, Matt, and Chance right here in this call right now. You should check out 32-bit Operator.
We don't have any music anywhere yet. Check us out. Sorry. Oh jeez. Our bassist Joey. I'm excited for. Oh god, I'm always excited for Summer Brews. I love those people. They're good people. I've seen Equipment too many times. Hate Equipment. No, I'm okay. I'm excited to see them too.
I'm over it.
Over it. No, I'm excited. Brain Weasels is kind of like a local. BG, and their evolution has been cool over the last few years. They've gotten really tight, so I'm excited to see them. Who else am I excited to see? Fend is a good one. Mudwhale and probably Nicotines, because I've never seen them before, but Connor spoke highly of them.
Also, I'm very excited for the Eds. I'm not sure how privy the podcast listeners are going to be to who Deskint is. They're on Twitter. They're like Twitter's resident 16-year-old. He's just this kid from Pittsburgh who has come to like a ton of festivals and is just everywhere. His mom drops him off type shit.
That's awesome.
The coolest kid I've ever fucking met has won the big raffle, like the big Fauxchella raffle, the past 2 years. So it's just like showed up, bought a fuck ton of raffle tickets, and won like a ton of records. The coolest kid in the world. He's in a band called the Eds, and simply because he's the coolest kid I've ever met, I booked the Eds for Fauxchella 8. So I'm excited for Deskins.
That counts as your Connor pick.
Yeah,
that's dude. Honestly, the Connor pick this year is straight up just Deskins band. That's the coolest 16-year-old I've ever met. Shout out the Eds.
A different vibe, but like a little bit similar is what is it? Milk on the Rocks. Milk on the Rocks rocks. Shout out to Milk on the Rocks because they rock.
Hell of an image.
I was like, yeah, it's an uncomfy band name to me.
Oh yeah.
That's not also the first person to complete the scavenger hunt last year.
That's cool.
They love it all.
Glow's not privy. Trey makes a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, Trey's the card mastermind, as well as like the day of fest like scavenger hunt for like the super secret cards. He's got a very, I don't know. Trey's the card and scavenger hunt mastermind, and has done it like the past 3 years. And I think Deskint was the first one to complete it last year.
Just overall, I think Trey has a lot of the Shack aesthetic. I feel like we have the cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This year, Sergey has made, I think, posted to a few of them, some Magic the Gathering playable like proxy cards of every band that I don't really know how he's gonna have them. I assume he's gonna give them out through interviews or something, but you can look forward to that for anyone attending.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think he's doing like one for the band and I think one to give out. So I think they're 2 of 2 for like each card. I want to say.
Yeah, for any Magic players out there.
Noah's Ark for Magic the Gathering fans.
Yeah, truly.
I'm excited to see Ellie's set because it's the only time I get to see Ellie play their own music, not Equipment music.
That's true. We also, we had My Own Desert Island last year, Jake from Equipment's band. We also have the other Equipment side project. We have Waving this year. So Waving, Ellie, and Equipment are all playing. So I guess fuck you, Jake. My Own Desert Island got to play last year.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a Equipment trifecta or fourfecta, depending on how many of the projects were there, if they all played? 3 out of 4 is damn impressive.
Back to back Waving Equipment.
I would love to force them to play.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Like the gauntlet, you know what I mean?
The Quippy rotation gauntlet.
The Quippy gauntlet would honestly just be like a cool show
It'd be cool
to do. Just like separate from Fauxchella, I feel like we could just do that for fun.
That would be a really neat show to put in.
It would be like if I was waving goodbye, what equipment would you take? If you had to live on your own desert island for show?
Are you okay, brother?
No, I broke right there. It was a glitch.
Oh man. Oh, I think I'm most excited. I'm gonna go lame answer. I really just excited to see everybody. I live in Kalamazoo, so I feel like I don't see everyone as much now that I live here. But yeah.
Yeah,
All the
Chance, you
homies.
live all the way in Chicago, and you didn't say you were excited to see us.
Yeah, what the heck?
That's true. I didn't say it.
We're witnessing the fracturing. Oh no.
Double
Matt has
down.
cool access though to the Kazoo scene, which there's a lot of crazy music coming out of Michigan. Just always has been.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, big shout out the Goblin Zone always. Also, there's like a zillion fucking house venues in the Vine, and I live kind of in the Vine. Like Joe Mockingbird was just playing the other day, and I was like, oh, I could walk down the street and literally To Kill a Mockingbird's playing. Like, hell yeah.
That is dope. You have, I think, like house venue per square mile. I think Kalamazoo has like
It's weird,
regularly been
yeah.
like the highest.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, you got to see Saturday's Ear Place played God knows how many times before they blew up, Matt.
We played with Saturdays, I think, one of the last times they played in the Vine.
For the
Yeah,
last
Oh,
one,
true.
so it
Yeah,
was-
the Riley
and
show.
Riley. We had no business being on that
Oh,
show,
yeah.
but it was fun.
Riley C. Home, Saturdays at your place.
Oh, what was the other one?
There's
There was a band that got thrown on like last
Mhm.
second, like
Yeah.
right before the show. It was just like friend of a friend, and they were badass.
It was a name, something Randy. No, I'm thinking of a different.
Not Randy
You're thinking of
Diggs.
Randy Diggs.
Yeah, never mind. I can't remember.
Just a few questions left here. I just always want to ask, especially with something that's been going on as long, is there any like specific core Fauxchella memories or stories that when you think back over the 8, festivals you've put on that you just kind of come to memory?
I don't remember this happening, but it was either 6 or 7. I think it was 6. I was in the throes of just saying Baba Booey as like my like nonsense response to just like seeing somebody, or like just like my stimming response, I guess. I would just say it in response to almost anything, or like as like a greeting or acknowledgement, you know what I mean? I was just saying Baba Booey. And apparently that was the year that the tow guy was like really fucking like on the lot, you know what I mean? And I didn't want bands to have to pay $80 to $100 to get their car unhooked, you know what I mean? So I was trying to be really on top of that, and had to pay the tow guy to drop one of the cars. And apparently Mike from Summer Brews was out there with me, and I was just like so autopilot that like as I like gave the tow guy the money, I said like Baba Booey in like a very sad and resigned way. And
That's
just
awesome.
like walked back inside, and Mike told me about it a few hours later, and I was like, dude, there's no way I said that. Like, there's no way that actually happened. He goes like, I have no reason to lie to you, man. Like, you did do that.
I think I remember you saying Baba Booey when I got my pass or something. Like that
I believe it.
even as a passerby.
Well, my
Fauxchella-
memories are ruined at Fauxchella because I feel like they're all because I've edit brain, because I just have only
Yeah,
seen it through a lens. I feel like
Fauxchella
know.
memories are like kind of like childhood memories where I just like
It's a
get like
haze.
bits of them. Yeah, it's like a
Mhm.
haze, but like a happy haze. Like of
I
just
feel like
stuff
just walking
happening.
around, you see a friend and you chat and you move on. You see a friend, you chat, then you're shooting, and it's just that all day
Mhm.
long for several days.
It's always cool to see a project or a band play to like 150, 200 people when they played. Last time you saw them to like 10 people maybe, or just all the bands type of thing. That's always cool.
Yeah.
Everyone
Giving-
they feed off that energy, and it's really
Yeah.
that's the one thing Fauxchella always like, the energy there rocks every time.
Yeah,
Giving a band their biggest set is always like a very cool feeling, where it's just
Mhm.
like, yeah, well, the most people we've ever played to is like 50 people, and that was a really crazy show. And it's like, cool, we're gonna have you play to 150 people. Let's go.
I like the
Oh, yeah.
mornings a lot for some reason. Just like the chaos before the chaos is very cool. Just everyone scrambling around, or like being very calm before a bunch of people are about to walk in.
Yeah, the 3 hours before, 3 to 4 hours before doors every year. I feel like day 2, it's just like, you wake up and you do it all again.
And you just do
but
it.
I feel
like
pre-doors day 1 every year is always just like a very specific feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like, I don't know. It's like electric. It's exciting. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh fuck, dude. Like, all right, or it's time. You know what I mean?
Or even in cleanup, right when it's done, like that's
also,
honestly some of the best times because
it
like
really is.
Matt and Chance don't really drink that much, but right after that, and when everything's like good, they usually have a shot or two, and it's just fun.
True.
I don't know, it's just chill. It's nice. Job well done type energy.
I think the last Fauxchella. That's okay. That's a good memory I have. Jake Fauxchella played Sandstorm at the end, and I just remember dancing with Mike Summerbrews to Sandstorm, and that was the cleanup crew. And I think Mike Seymour was there still.
And Stan was there
might have been there
too.
still.
Yeah.
That was fun as hell.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you all taking some time to chat with us here this evening. We always ask, again, since it's sold out, is there any way you guys have like people could still get in if they do, like, is there volunteering efforts or
what resale market look like? How much do you talk to people for?
So there's 2 ways that people can still attend. Once we have the schedule finalized and I've got the last few, bands that are stuck in the ether, either to confirm or deny that they can play. Confirm or deny is not the accept or deny. I don't know. I couldn't think of the right word for that. Whether or not they can play, you know what I mean? And we get the schedule split set up. We're going to do 25 Friday passes and 25 Saturday passes. And then on top of that, there are also the volunteer slots. We ask that people volunteer for 3 hours a day that they attend. So if you want to come to Friday, because you can't be there Saturday or something, but you miss a ticket, if you volunteer, say from like noon to 3 p.m., you can just stay at the fest for the rest of the day for free. And the volunteer jobs are all very, very simple. It's, helping people load in and watching the side door, running the raffle table, and then helping the door person, just handing out trading cards and wristbands and everything. Very simple, very straightforward jobs. And we just ask for, people to take 3 hours out of their day to get in for free, essentially. Because those jobs really do kind of help us take the load off of like the Howard staff. And having, I don't know, I still think side door prop job / load in helper. I think that is the most important job.
Yeah.
Because the door locks from the outside. So if it closes all the way, you have to go all the way around to get in through the side door. But if you close it gingerly, it doesn't lock. So I literally have someone whose designated job is to make sure that door doesn't fucking close.
There's no load-in area in Howard, so it's like everything's staged right outside, usually in the trailer.
Yeah, it's like it's a supremely necessary job, as goofy as it sounds, and I have to like explain that to people. I'm like, okay, your job is to help people load, but on top of that, the most important part of your job is to make sure that fucking door does not close. Like, please.
Yeah.
As someone who has stood outside that door smoking, hoping that someone would come and let us in before I had to walk all the way around.
You get it. You get it.
God bless the unsung heroes.
Yeah,
right?
Truly.
Probably the best volunteer spot too, because you get to watch every band side stage.
Yeah,
exactly.
Honestly, yeah, sounds better.
It
sometimes.
sounds really great there too.
I am of the firm belief that every band sounds best through a wall with a cigarette in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the best any band can sound.
To that question though, I would also say, I mean, this isn't like extra tickets by any means, but like places just like the DIY Discord. I know there's a lot of people that bought like bulk tickets just in advance for people that might not be able to afford it. So I would say just check. There's probably people that might not be able to attend or might have extras looking.
Don't fall for scammers.
Like,
Say the word ticket or sale or anything, and if you're ever gonna post, because you'll just get bots and you'll get scammed, and I don't want people to get scammed.
And my Venmo is and if you send
well, cool. And then where can people keep up to date on the latest things going on with the Summit Check? What's like the best social media or website or newsletter that they can?
I would say the best way to stay up to date is the Twitter, just because I feel like that's where we're most active.
Unfortunately,
I think the Shack has a Twitter. I'm trying to do the Blue Sky thing. I think Shack has a Blue Sky. I've got a personal Blue Sky over there. But yeah, either following the Summit Shack on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, or my personal Connor Shack on any of those platforms. I feel like any Shack stuff we're doing, I'm usually going to post about it. If not, post about it on the Shack account.
In the
YouTube. Video stuff I've just been keeping on the YouTube up.
Yeah, YouTube, Summit Shack YouTube, tons of videos, tons of shorts, old interviews, new interviews. We're rehashing some old stuff and like re-releasing it over time. So, there's all sorts of places you can keep up with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us here on this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Appreciate y'all.
You have been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share so you can stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. You can find information and other important links in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support us, please consider subscribing on Patreon for early access to live sessions and other bonus content. You can also subscribe to our Substack for a regular newsletter with reviews, ramblings, and anything else we have to say. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.